pick one and share that one with you.
Help enhance the way we practice. Whether it's pixel-based, trying to diagnose something or aiding in diagnosing, to things like making our workflow and ergonomics better, hanging protocols in packs, or work lists, or scheduling patients. I would love to see AI and deep learning be used for things that take a lot of our time.
I think AI has the potential to be an excellent contributor to the entire image interpretation lifecycle, beginning from image acquisition all the way to the interpretation and communication of those results.
I think that we're going to get to the best vision of the future if we can collaborate and create an effective ecosystem using artificial intelligence tools, enabling better care for our patients.
I believe that AI will empower clinicians to work better, more precise, which will downstream lead to better outcomes for patient care.
Great. So this was more of a concept video, I'll call it, from NVIDIA that's doing a lot of work in this space, right? Any thoughts, comments based on what you heard those doctors share? Especially in the radiology, because it's a little different than surgery, right? It's less hands-on to your body.
It all comes down to the same thing, AI is going to liberate us from menial tasks, from repetitive tasks, from volumes of things that we have to do. In radiology, well, yeah, is interpreting the images. The problem in radiology has never been, the volume of work that they have to actually undertake, but is the in telemedicine, for instance, in teleradiology, the problem has always been the quality of the images.
Yes.
Yeah. When do you apply a program of telemedicine or teleradiology? When you have to run diagnostics in remote places, rural places. You're not going to have an MRI machine or a CAT scan in a rural town somewhere in India or anywhere, right?
Yeah, and I completely agree with you, Mario. It's one of those things where the more kind of automated or menial tasks that you can take. We heard that doctor say, right? She mentioned that she never has enough time to talk to her patients. And it brought me back to what Tatiana said earlier.
Exactly.
Why don't we just be kind and we be human? Our doctors don't have time right now to include that. So this is a perfect use case, in my opinion, for AI, because it's very data driven. And the more you can enhance those images, as that other doctor said, right? It's more augmented intelligence, because the doctor is still there to have that conversation with the human patient. But this is enabling them, as you said.
Yes, exactly. And all of that money and resources that you're saving, right, by doing these tasks, leaving it to AI to deal with it, then it all comes back to what you said. It's about policies and culture. Right. So we use those extra resources, those additional resources, those safe resources, to train our doctors, to liberate them from these tasks, so they have more time. And instead of spending 5 minutes, like Tatiana said, with a patient, hey, you can spend half an hour.
Right.
And improve your bedside manners. There you go.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I don't think anybody becomes a doctor to try and figure out how to read these things, right? I was actually in another meeting earlier. It was actually an inclusion training for one of my clients. And the person who was delivering the training asked, why do you think people want to become doctors? Because they all want to help people, right? Nobody wants to become a doctor to go read documents or do data entry, right? They want to maximize their time to help people. So these type of things, in my opinion, yes, surgery is a bit of a gray area, because how much do you offload to a robot versus a human? In this case, in radiology, I would argue probably 99% of it can be offloaded, the imaging portion of it. And then the decision-making part can be that augmented intelligence piece. So Sudarshan says, environmental changes are the main source of all weird diseases in the world. Sudarshan, would you like to actually speak up to some of your comments there? Maybe you could share more context and color on that. Sudarshan, are you still with us? Oh, okay. If not, then I'll just read your comment there. Environmental changes are the main source of all weird diseases that world never saw before. Back in times, the doctors used to treat the disease by just observing the pulse and not looking at clinical investigation. But then the death rate was quite high, right? So in some ways, I agree with you because that personal nature has kind of gone away. But I think we're at that weird time in history, and I'm going to call it history because that's everything you look at in the past. You have to look at it with a critical eye, right? So a lot of that data we actually don't have. So when somebody checked your pulse and just recorded it down, did they go back and see whether their prediction was right or not? Right? We don't have that. What we do have is the last little while in the history when doctors actually started recording this information and people started being more cautious of their health, and instead of just being sick and going to doctor, they went for annual health checkups and things of that nature. That's when a lot of this data started getting recorded. I'll give you my personal example. A few years ago, I was diagnosed with diverticulitis. I used to have very stressful life just in terms of work. And in some ways, it was a wake up call for me to say, I need to balance my life. I need to make sure I'm eating right, I'm exercising. But at the same time, people originally thought that I had appendicitis, and they were telling me in the hospital that I need to get an operation done because it was on the same side as the appendix, which was unusual for diverticulitis. And if they hadn't done a CT scan, they actually did an ultrasound first and they couldn't figure out what was happening. If they had not done a CT scan, and I've seen those pictures, and I was awestruck when I saw them because I'd never seen anything like that before in my life. They shared that with me on a DVD, and I brought it home and I watched it. It was amazing. Each single diverticulitis, like I had multiple ones of those in my case. One of them was infected. And if they had assumed that I had appendicitis and I had undergone surgery, I wasn't really at that age group where it would be a huge risk for me. But anytime you're under a knife is more invasive than if you can treat it with antibiotics and right medication and right treatment in terms of lifestyle adjustment, right? So I'm not sure if that helps what you were saying earlier, but to me, um, I wouldn't do it any other way. I actually am very thankful that the doctor encouraged me to get a CT scan, even though there's a bit of a chance that young women could get cancer from it, but it saved my life in some way, right? Like I could live another 30 years and then get cancer possibly, right? Or I could have had unnecessary surgery and suffer for another 6 months, and who knows what happens after that. So I'm seeing some more comments come in. Marcia says, I did an AI project to diagnose Alzheimer's images. Maria, I'm very excited if you could unmute yourself and share that with us. Marcia, are you still there?
Hi, yes, I'm here.
Go ahead.
So, yeah, I was studying data science at Ryerson University, and my project was to use deep learning to diagnose Alzheimer's images. And it was very successful. I don't remember the exact accuracy rate, but it was comparable or even better than radiologists. And what was interesting is that it was so easy to do, which was a surprise for me. Basically, what happens is I took architectures that won international competitions in AI, and then I just retrained that. And it's called transfer learning, this type of skill. And right now, a lot of people are using that as well. And
That's
transfer learning,
amazing.
what that means is that instead of training something from scratch, you build on what somebody else has trained.
Yes.
So yeah, for me, because of my results, I would even consider AI to be better than humans sometimes. So, and I think the future we will see there be more accuracy as well. It's just
Yes.
that at this point, I think I read somewhere they said that jobs are replaced if they are like repetitive jobs, right? And we can definitely see that happening with AI. But in the near future, I think it'll be beyond that. AI
Yeah.
is really a promising field. Every time that I look at something that's being done, it's just so amazing. And there's so many possibilities for healthcare as well.
That is really exciting. Thank you so much for sharing your work in that area with us, Marcia. I would actually
Yeah.
encourage you to send us the link or any information you have about it
Okay, sure,
in
I
case
will.
other people are interested.
Okay, great.
And I agree with you. It's one of these things that these are exactly the type of solutions with the correct use case, as you said, right? Which can make the difference where the benefits possibly, I dare say it, outweigh the negative consequences of it, which is, as you said, the jobs.